Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke Radio for the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? Today's Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. We are live. And we're also 75 days into the new year, only 290 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Tonight, very special guest, Stephen Bassett is here. Steven is here. We're going to be talking about everything that is going on right now in the UFO community. Disclosure in 2021, PRG, all of his efforts, and insight. All that and much more. I know what's coming up tonight with Steven. It's always a great conversation. Tomorrow night, right here, attorney James Lowe, first-time guest. He is here to talk about the UAP Task Force report to the Senate Intelligence Committee. He has penned a very special book. I have the advance copy of said book, and this will be distributed to journalists in Capitol Hill in advance of the report, and more on that tomorrow night. Not only on the report itself, but what this book is. Okay, so we will talk about all of that tomorrow. It's going to be great. And then Thursday, of course, is another Fader night with open lines all night long. All right. Now, over the weekend, we gifted Lisa Frith a skull for her birthday. And it was a very special skull, and that picture was posted, pictures of this very special skull. And it's extraordinary. And we got that skull. And I know everybody saw it and went, oh, man, that's amazing. And it is. We got that crystal skull from Carolyn Ford. All right. And you can go to Einstein the Crystal Skull right now and see what Carolyn Ford has. She has the very best. Go over to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the banners, EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Promo code is Jimmy. That's all you got to do, Jimmy. 10% off of your Crystal Skull order today, right now. Okay, just go. She has the best, the absolute best. And I made the announcement last night. I will be at the UFO MegaCon June 6th through the 12th in Laughlin, Nevada. I want you to come and hang out with us because this is in person, live, for real, people in person. the amazing lineup of speakers and everything is at Laughlin UFOmegaconference.com. And I've posted up the links in social media. I want you to go and check it out. Now, due to our 250-person attendance limit, all right, that's the limit. That's it. We all know what's going on out there. There's regulations and things. That's it. Strict 250-person attendance limit. So you need to go and get your tickets now and get registered. And what this also means, with only 250 tickets available, fade or nots, got to get in early. Can you imagine how many Fade to Black shirts are going to be at this conference, all right? And you want to be there wearing your Fade to Black hat. All right? I need you to go now and get your tickets. Let's do this. All right? Now, also, I posted up earlier today, Surfer. Okay. As you know, Surfer has been a sponsor of this show for a couple of years, and they love the Fadernauts. Today, they launched a Kickstarter campaign, and this is how cool this company is. All right, they want to add 5 new features to the app. All right, and the app is free and everything else, and you can go right now and help them on their Kickstarter campaign. It's only $7,000. That's it. It's not $100,000. It's not $1 million. That's how cool this company is. $7,000. I just posted up in Twitter the link to their Kickstarter campaign. Fadernauts, we've done this so many times in years past. All right? Fadernauts get together and get things done. I have posted up in Twitter the link to the Kickstarter campaign. Also, everybody over on YouTube right now, in the description box below is the link to Kickstarter. I want everybody to rally together and get this done and get it done now. All kinds of really cool features and things that you get for donating and to the Kickstarter and helping Surfer out. And I want to show Surfer the power of the Fadernauts and what a family is. Okay, so I've got everything up right now. It's on the description box in the video. It's up in Twitter. I've got it over on Facebook. It's all throughout social media. I want to get this done. I want to get it done now. Okay? All right. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's right. Man, there's some things going on Twitter right now. It's and Facebook. I'm going to talk about all of this in just a minute. It's a crazy world out there. And now I also want to mention, and I don't do this often. In fact, this is about as rare as it gets. Favorite TV shows of all time. You know, and I've got this list, right? I've got this list, and number one, it kind of rotates with the flavor of the week, but it's always been, you know, like Star Trek, the original series, Lost in Space, UFO, Space 1999, Gilligan's Island, The Brady Bunch. You know, the greatest TV series of all time. Well, I have a new greatest TV series of all time, and I don't know if it's ever going to get kicked off my number one. Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is my now new greatest TV series of all time. This is not a joke. If you haven't seen Rick and Morty, Fadernauts, I'm just telling you right now. And don't let the title of the show, if you've heard, you've seen, never clicked on it because it's a cartoon. Well, you know what? You've got to go and do it, and you've got to go do it now. There's 4 seasons out. All right. I am now almost done with season 2, and it's already my number one greatest TV series of all time. Over Star Trek Discovery. I'm telling you. Stargate, I'm telling you, it is great beyond measure. Rick and Morty. Oh my goodness gracious. It's just the best. It's the best. All right, let's move on. Let's get to the breaking news. Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty. I know that there's some Rick and Morty fans out there going, Church, you're late to the bandwagon, dude. No, that's been my number one for a long time. Okay, I get it. Credit goes to my daughter, Deanna. She goes, have you guys watched Rick and Morty yet? And no, I haven't watched Rick and Morty yet. It's the best TV show ever. Oh, stop. Stop with that cartoon. All right. Man, I can't thank her enough. Deanna, I'm telling you, Rick and Morty, #1, greatest TV series in the history of television. Amazing. All right. Let's get to the breaking news. U.S. intelligence has assessed that North Korea could be preparing to carry out their first weapons test since President Joe Biden came into office. All of this according to several United States officials. U.S. officials are on alert as the U.S. and South Korea conduct scaled-down simulated military exercises, and the United States Secretary of State Tony Blinken and his Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin are in Asia right now for meetings with their Japanese and South Korean counterparts. Based on imagery and other intelligence, North Korea is preparing for a missile or rocket engine test. The last known North Korean weapons test was conducted in March of 2020. We will keep you posted on this. Well, I know you heard the news, but it is official as of yesterday that The Talk, the TV show, and a lot of people watch that show. They do. Probably not you, but people do watch it. And The Talk is airing reruns this week. That's because the CBS daytime talk show has gone on a brief hiatus following a heated debate last week between co-host Sharon Osbourne, wife of Ozzy, and Cheryl Underwood regarding Osbourne's support of her longtime friend, Piers Morgan. That's right, on hiatus. It'll be back. It will. Fragments of a biblical scroll dating back 1,900 years have been discovered in the Cave of Horah in the Judean desert in Israel. The cave's existence has been known for a long time, and it gets its macabre name from 40 ancient human skeletons that were discovered there in the 1960s. The newly found biblical scroll is written in Greek. It dates back to the Bar Kokhba revolt and contains passages from the books of Zechariah and Nahum. The Israeli Antiquities Authority said in a statement released today. The Hebrew Bible, the scroll, I should say, are from one book in the Hebrew Bible of 12 minor prophets. Now, the headlines today, little side note of all of this. The headlines today, we're talking about Dead Sea Scrolls, and this is another Dead Sea Scroll. No, two different parts of the country have nothing to do with each other. They span quite a bit of distance in time. This has nothing to do with the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right, asteroid 2021 EQ3 shot past Earth at 12 kilometers per second, or roughly 43,000 kilometers per hour at 9:45 p.m. last night. The 21-meter 2021 EQ3 passed the planet at a distance of, check this, only 167,000 miles between the Earth and the moon. Nobody knew about it. Before today is over, however, the 9-meter 2021 EJ3 will pass the planet at just 471,000 miles. Shortly after that, the 16-meter 2021 EW3 will pass at 1.4 million miles. And then, later on tonight, the 34-meter 2021 DT will pass us at 4.3 million miles. But this is just a mere prelude to the visit of truly monstrous proportions. The Golden Gate Bridge-sized asteroid 2001 FO32 will pass Earth on March 31st in just 5 days. Get ready for that. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today. One of my favorite actors right now, Alan Tudyk. Today is 50 years old. Of course, he starred in the TV series Firefly, and he's also the star of Resident Alien. Flavor Flav today is 62. Jimmy Nail today is 67. Starred in the film Still Crazy, one of my favorite films of all time. playing bass in the band Strange Fruit. Hearts Nancy Wilson today is 67. Drummer Jimmy DeGrasso today is 57. Jimmy played in David Lee Roth, Lita Ford, Ozzy Osbourne, Dokken, White Lion, Suicidal Tendencies, and Y&T. Our dead guy's birthday today is Jerry Lewis, 1926 to 2017, died at the age of 91, comedian, actor, muscular dystrophy telethon host, who formed one of history's greatest comedic teams with Dean Martin. He received Lifetime Achievements Awards from the Los Angeles Film Critics Association, the American Comedy Awards, and the Venice Film Festival. Great films like The Nutty Professor, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and The King of Comedy. The King of Comedy was great. Jerry died at his home in Las Vegas, Nevada on August 20th, 2017, at the age of 91. On this day in history, 1926, Robert H. Goddard successfully launches the world's first liquid-fueled rocket. It traveled for 2.5 seconds at a speed of about 60 miles an hour, reaching an altitude of 41 feet, and landed 184 feet away. Fader fact. Here you go. Fader fact. During the height of the California gold rush, an egg from a chicken would cost the equivalent of $25 in today's money. One egg. Coffee went for $100 a pound. And a pair of boots would have set you back more than $2,500. And that is your Fader Fact. Tonight, Stephen Bassett is joining us. He will be with us at the bottom of the hour. We're going to be talking about disclosure in 2021 and all of the efforts of PRG that are going down right now. And we've got some other stuff we're going to talk about tonight as well. Now, let me get to my River Moon coffee. Talking about that this weekend. Guest at the house talking about that River Moon coffee commercial. But I'm telling you, it's that good. RiverMoonWellness.com. The links are right there at JimmyChurchRadio.com. River Moon Coffee, the best. Fade to Black blend, game changer blend. All right, promo code F2B blend. That's all you got to do. 15% off of your order today. All right. Ah, man, it's too good. I'm going to do this one more time. Man, coffee's so good, you sip it twice. So, today, a very known individual. I won't say popular. I'm not going to go there. That wouldn't be correct. Well, popular in certain circles, I guess. But let's just go with known. Okay? We'll do that for now. This individual posted this message throughout social media. Quote, 1.9 trillion. That could have given every American $1 million and saved 1.5 trillion. Think about that. End quote. Now, I'm looking at this and thinking, you can't be serious. But there was the post with the likes climbing and the comments mounting. The outrage. Now, I'm no PhD. We all know this. But it took me all of about 2 seconds to do the math. 2 seconds. Without a calculator, mind you. And inside of 2 seconds, the number that popped into my head was, wait for it, $1,500. $1,500 per person for 350 million Americans. Now, my numbers, of course, are off. I'm not punching into anything, but I'm not stupid. Super simple. 1 billion is 1,000 million. 350 billion, 350 million Americans. All right, get it. Plus or minus, whatever. Doesn't matter. $1,000 per person. That's what that is. Right there. Just boom. Done. Kids don't get anything. Subtract them. Take the kids off the list. Add half. Go back. $1,500. That's it. That's what my brain did. And you still have $1.5 trillion left over, right? Not $1 million per American. My God. So simple to understand, even for me, because I'm not smart. So who would post something this stupid? Well, as scary as this thought is, that there is somebody out there who's dumb enough to actually get things ready, prep the post, look at it, read it, and then click the post button with a mouse. Who is that stupid? Now, I'm not going to disclose anything, and you might have already seen it for yourself, but I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. It's not my nature. The really scary part is that there were hundreds of people who clicked the like button. There's more than that, actually. Hundreds who don't have a grasp of really basic math, who don't think for themselves anymore, who will read anything in social media and accept it as truth without using their brains. Taking things a step further, it's in the comments, by the way, with things like 350 million Americans could have built homes for the homeless and fed everyone in the country forever with $500,000 left over in the bank for all Americans, every Americans in the United States, right? Comments like this over and over again. I'm just like, how stupid are you people? Now, if it's just one comment like this, fine. Just one stupid person. Okay, get it. But there were many, many more just like this. And a few of them that I actually know. But I'll leave that right here. You can chew on it for yourselves. But there were also those who knew basic math and posted the real numbers and made their comments. And yes, that was pretty refreshing to see, but I guess I still have some faith in humanity and social media. Thank goodness, right? But the third but that I got to get to in this rant, but there was no response from the original poster. Nope. Nobody really commented on the correct math either. Why? Because they didn't want to believe the correct math. I think that's guaranteed. I don't want to believe it. No, math is wrong. Did the original poster do the right thing and pull the post down? Nope. It's still there. I just checked. The Facebook fact checkers caught up with it, though. I saw the original post right as it went up. And then an hour later, it was flagged with false information. And of course, now the comments are, dude, Facebook doesn't want this info out there. You're flying right over the target, man. I cannot believe the absurdity of this. Crazy world. Here is an actual comment. An actual comment. I'm quoting. This is word for word. Quote. That would have upped the economy, private schools, businesses, the housing market, too. But they don't want us all better off. With $1 million, people could easily pay for their own health and dental insurance, end quote. The insanity. The original post, in just 3 hours, was shared over 100 times. And how this spreads out over and through Facebook to numbers that you can't even imagine. And I'm sure that it was probably viewed 1 million times and liked. So I did a little surfing. I clicked on some shares. And holy crap, I'll just say this. Going on the record. Just reading through the comments outside of the original post. I'm just going through and seeing how this is spreading all over the place. And just reading through those comments, I can only come to one conclusion. People are idiots, man. It's crazy. It's the simplest of the simple math. I flunked algebra I flunked algebra in the 9th grade. Flunked algebra. I had to go to summer school after I flunked out of algebra. I go to summer school, I get an A. Got to be. Skated through it. The teacher was just being nice to me. But and I thought that I got a basic I gave up. I did not want to do algebra 2. I had to take geometry to graduate high school. And I barely made it through that. My teacher, Mr. Lumley, who was also somebody who I kicked his ass in backgammon and chess, checkers and backgammon club. He knew I was smart. He couldn't beat me at backgammon. And we also talked about the Lord of the Rings a lot. So Mr. Lumley gave me a pass card in geometry. I got a C. I didn't deserve it. He just coached me through it. But I'm just not a math genius. But that post, even I, the guy who flunked out of algebra, can read this and do the math in my own head. Absolutely incredible. Incredible. People are lazy today. Incredible. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. People are idiots, man. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Steven Bassett joins us. We're going to be talking about disclosure in 2021 with the full PRG update. All that and much more tonight. Tomorrow night, attorney James Lowe is here. We're going to be talking about the UAPTF task force report. It's on its way to the Senate. We're about halfway through that timetable now. Yeah, it's not 180 days anymore. It's more like 90. We're going to be talking about all of that tomorrow night. Thursday is another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. the tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Steven Bassett is here. Tomorrow night, attorney James Lowe. And it's going to be an extraordinary show tomorrow night with James, just like Steven tonight. Tomorrow night, Jim Lowe is penned a new book. He's penned a new book. I've got it here to be distributed just amongst the media in Capitol Hill in advance of the UAPTF report. So that'll be tomorrow night. Tonight, Steven is the executive director of the Paradigm. Wait. Parrot Time, Steven. It's your new project, Parrots. Are you hip to that?
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
Okay, good. The Paradigm Research Group, founded in 1996 to end government-imposed embargo on the truth behind the so-called UFO phenomenon. He has spoken to audiences around the world about the implications of the formal disclosure by world governments of an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. Now, we all know about PRG's advocacy work and the huge press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. back in 2014. I just messed that up because I jumped ahead. And what I'm trying to do, instead of reading the normal, ginormous bio that I have for Steven, that's what I get for going off script, Steven. But seeking the first hearings on Capitol Hill since 1968 regarding the extraterrestrial presence issue and working to see that the issue included in the ongoing presidential campaigns. Now, his website is paradigmresearchgroup.org. Steven, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm tongue-tied, and that doesn't happen often, my friend.
You've been keeping late nights, my friend, undoubtedly playing your guitar till late in the morning and living your past glories as a rocker.
Yes, actually, that has more truth to it. I have.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's going to take years of detox to get rid of the 1980s in this old body of mine. There's no question about that. Crazy times that we find ourselves in right now, Steven, and things are heating up out there like never before. And watching the chatter going around in official and unofficial circles, it's starting to get a little bit tangible to me. And I don't know of another way to express it than that. Does it feel the same way to you?
It's been very tangible for me for some time. It's almost overwhelming. The amount of activity, new people coming into play or upping their game, the number of things coming from government, books being published, people jumping in. It's happening faster than I can keep up, and I'm trying to keep up. But it's all confirming what I've said already numerous times. Barring a bad thing happening around the world somewhere, I mean, really bad.
Right.
We should be in the last weeks and months of the truth embargo, heading towards disclosure. And there's certain things that have to happen between now and then. I see those things taking place. So it's a big deal. I mean, you could spend all your day just reviewing the postings, the blog, the podcasts, the articles coming out, investigations being reported, not to mention countless tweets and Facebook postings from people, new ET related social media is happening. It's just starting to explode. It's that simple, which is what I fully expected as we are in the last days.
How much, I'm going to ask you a question that I've never asked you before, but how much do you put on documents? They surface from time to time. Sometimes they come in loads. How much credence do you put into documents from supposed official sources? And then, of course, you have Freedom of Information Act official documents, too, as well. How much weight do you put to those?
Substantial amount of weight. They're all part of the evidentiary matrix, which is huge. We do have quite a few documents. The government has interfered in that process, though. You only get what the government will give you. No matter how many FOIs you file, you're going to get what they're willing to release, and you're not going to get the good stuff. But so many FOIs have been filed on the ET issue. There have been accidents where things got sent out that probably shouldn't have been sent out. Mm-hmm. But then the government has also put out, I believe, some false documents and so forth to muddy the waters. This is all part of the truth embargo. And documents are sophisticated evidence. You really need to have strong skills to be able to confirm a document. Most people don't. And so there's been endless arguments about this document and that document. But they're all part of the evidentiary matrix, and many of them, I think, are very compelling. And that's a good thing. So I'm fine with that. Some people have devoted years to the document issue. Certainly the leader there has got to be John Greenwald.
Sure.
And all of that evidence will be very valuable and come into play as we finish up this era, get to the post-disclosure world is when the documents really come into play. They're all going to be reviewed. There's going to be many more released, and the historians will just jump on them. I mean, like a pile of leaves, and just wallow around in them for years. And that's great. I'll be doing other things, but believe me, they will have their day.
Now, and you just brought up one of the points that I find the most intriguing, that some of them may not be real.
Yeah.
Right. Some of them, and I'm not talking about something created by somebody with Photoshop with too much time on their hands. I'm talking about, purposefully released for disinformation. And that's where we have to not only use discernment, but try to figure out what actually is going on, because that certainly seems to be the case, not only historically with ufology, because we've got all of that in the past to talk about. But today, where we are in this very heated moment, now we don't know what is real and what isn't, do we?
I think the more knowledgeable researchers have a pretty good idea of the best stuff. Nobody, I think, has a perfect sense of it, but we have a pretty good idea. But I still have a different take on that. The government puts out some false. By the way, this is a classic tool of intelligence.
Sure.
There's an extraordinary story about where the British took a dead body, put him in a uniform, gave him a briefcase with a bunch of little artifacts in it, and dropped him into the off the coast of Spain, so that he would eventually come to shore and be seen as a dead British officer. But inside that suitcase was a bunch of plans regarding a landing that the British were going to do in Greece. In fact, of course, that wasn't where they were going to go. They were landing Sicily. And so the idea, they knew that was going to get taken to the commandant there, and then he would take it to Hitler, and that's what they did. And Hitler ended up thinking that the invasion was going to be in Greece. So that's misinformation. This is classic stuff. And so they've done that in order to keep us busy. And so my take is this. I'm not saying it was wrong to do this. I'm simply saying that the government wanted us to spend all the time we could possibly devote to trying to figure out which document was real and which wasn't. As long as we were doing that, we were not coming at them with, okay, when are you going to give us the deal? When are we going to get disclosure here? When are we going to get congressional hearings? And so, in a sense, but we didn't have much choice. I understand they weren't yielding. And so given that, hey, let's focus on the documents. And we did our best. And we argued like hell and went back and forth at each other, which bothered me because that's exactly what the government wanted to do. And I say to most people now, I say, look, chill, don't argue anymore. This will all get sorted after disclosure, right? After disclosure, we will find out what was real, what wasn't, what was disinfo, what wasn't. And the researchers can go, I was right, I was wrong. And we can all get along and sing Kumbaya and party.
The new influx of interest into UFOs post December of 2017, where this just brought in this huge wave of interest in the UFO subject. That group, of which it's probably millions actually, they didn't go through what you and I went through in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s with documents and things, and where things got elevated to a level of boiling point that words really can't express what we went through. And I'm talking about MJ-12 and Majestic and Serbo and right, William Moore, and everything that, and what Linda Moulton Howe went through, of course, with Bill Doty, where this was a concerted campaign. And we have seen it all before, haven't we? So we know how to deal with it when it comes along, right?
I was lucky. I entered in 96 when things were starting to lighten up, though there was some unpleasantness that took place between 96 and 2000. But after 2000, it really changed. As I've described it, it wasn't that they ended the truth embargo. Obviously, they didn't. But they stopped putting any energy into it. In other words, there was sort of, it had at that point was 2000. It had 53 years of momentum behind it. Mm-hmm. It was kind of embedded in our culture, and so they just kind of let it go forward on its own, which helped to ensure that it would erode. And so I come in 96. I didn't experience much, but I know many of my colleagues what they went through, and what can I say? But it's even going to get better for the ones that are come up here really right now, that are coming into play right now. And there are a number. I'm not going to name names, but there's like there are Rosie Ruizes. There's going to be thousands of Rosie Ruizes that are coming in right now. They're going to cross the finish line with us, and that's okay. I have no problem with that. Now, a lot of your listeners are going, "Who in the hell is Rosie Ruiz?" Okay, I'm going to tell you. Rosie Ruiz is famous. You can, I know the exact year slips my mind, but she's famous because she entered back in, I think it was the 80s, some early 80s, mid 80s. She was able to qualify for the Boston Marathon and the New York Marathon, though that is now, I think eventually was found to be suspect. But it had a little less attention to it. So somehow she ran to get her qualification. She goes up to Boston to run a Boston Marathon. She's got her bib on. She goes to the start line, and off they go. And they're cruising on down. At some point, she slips off the race course, gets a cab, cruises on down toward about 1,000 yards from the finish line, right? And waits. She's listening. She's hearing it. And at some point, the woman leader is a certain amount out there, and so she just quickly puts her bib on, slips into the race, runs the last 1,000 yards, and wins the women's Boston Marathon. And she gets the prize and she gets the trophy, and they pick her up and everything. And then some of the pros, some of the top runners were looking her over, and they sort of know. They were looking at the calves, they were looking at the musculature, and they're going, There's no way that she, and by the way, I think she almost set the record.
Yes.
She almost set the record. She should have waited a little bit because that didn't help. And they go, so they started checking the films and they discovered, no, she jumped into the race. And then she went, and then that was that. She had her moment of fame. She went on, and life didn't go so well after that. And she had kind of a bad end, but she was famous. Rosie Ruiz, hey, these people coming in now are jumping in at the end of the marathon. They're not going to go through what we went through. But that's life. That's history, right? We chose to do this. Every one of my colleagues chose to do this. And let's face it, the satisfaction that I will have once disclosure has taken place, and now we're dealing with post-disclosure, which is going to be mega fun, is that much greater because of the 24 years I put in. And I'm sure that for Linda Moulton Howe, who I think has put in 50 years, 45, her degree of satisfaction and sense of empowerment and so forth will be great. The Rosie Ruiz people, not so much, but they'll have a lot of fun. And then everybody's going to want to participate in the post-disclosure world. I mean, everybody's going to be involved in that. And I think your listeners' base will increase. Your Twitter followers will increase. You'll be good.
I often wonder, and when we look at some like Dolan's book and things, where you start to look at a post-disclosure world, I always had a vision of it to go a certain way, and it was never really influenced by others. Right? I just had my own take on it, which has changed, and I just feel, Stephen, like for the first time, I don't see people freaking out. I don't see the people that are around me that are not part of, I'm talking about friends and family that have nothing to do with ufology or UFOs and have never seen an episode of Ancient Aliens or have never listened to this show. They don't know who you are, right? They are, UFOs. Yeah, so what? Right? It freaks me out. Of course we're not alone. This is the attitude, and I think it's going to be a little bit more blasé. The government's going to have some issues with the lies that they've been dealing with, but the Earth, I'm not so sure if there's going to be the big freak out. Do you?
No. Look, I just reread what I consider to be perhaps the most important book written on this subject, and I mean no disrespect for any other researchers and authors, but this book was a monumental achievement, and it is Witness to Roswell by Don Schmidt and Thomas Carey, where they brought together, they finally brought together almost a great deal of all their witness research and testimonies and deathbed confessions and so forth, put together. It is overwhelming. If somebody said to you, some smart person said to you, look, I haven't really followed this at all. Is there one book that I could read that will pretty much slam dunk it for me? Right? Yeah, there's ETs here. Okay. It's Witness to Roswell. If you read that book, and once you're done, it's unless you're a committed skeptic, where being a skeptic is your life, there's no other conclusion that you can come to than there was a crash vehicle at Roswell. There were dead bodies. And the evidence is overwhelming for just on the basis of witness testimony, which these men have put together in this extraordinary book. And that's it. So once you've got that, then the rest just falls into place. In other words, once you finally understand without any doubts in your mind that there was an extraterrestrial crash, at least one, maybe more than one, in New Mexico in July of 1947, and that there were bodies, and the vehicle was clearly not of this earth. Once you've got that, then everything kind of falls into place, because now you know at the same time that the U.S. government, and very soon every major government, knew as early as 1947 that there was an extraterrestrial presence. And now you can think about all the things they've said and done in the subsequent years in light of that fact, because once you know they've known all along, so much of what happened makes sense. It falls into place. And then as you read anything else about the ETs, it's easier to take it in. That one book is just ideal, and I can't commend it enough. So in terms of the post-disclosure. We don't know exactly how it's going to go. Oh, the reason I brought up the book is that some of the testimony in the book that's most compelling is that there were many people, a number of people that witnessed, saw the bodies and the wreckage and so forth in different parts of the saga. But some of the townspeople, one of the politicians, some of the nurses got extremely upset. This was frightened the hell out of them, scared the hell out of them. And I am not surprised at that. 1947, no preface to this, nothing. Suddenly, there it is. And the bodies, of course, stunk to high heaven. It was awful. And they were mangled, and they were really upset. And then, of course, the military came around and started threatening everybody. They were threatening everybody. I mean, anybody that they could get in front of, they were basically saying, you never talk about this or we will kill you and your family. They did it to who knows how many scores of people. And so you add that on top of it, and they had PTSD. They were, and they kept silent for most of the rest of their life. That was 1947. That was 73 years ago, 3/4 of a century. The amount of ET stuff that is poured into the world culture since then, the movies, the docs, the books, the TV series, and on and on and on and on. Man, it would fill a massive library. And so this is in 47. And people are going to go, that's cool. And now what do you got for me? Now, I'm not saying they won't get mad or be irritated, panicked. Drinking a bottle of scotch like one politician did back then after he saw the bodies, went back so upset, drank a whole bottle of scotch and went to sleep. No, they're not going to do that. They may drink some champagne to celebrate. So yeah, and there are plenty of people in government that know this. They've come to understand that. I learned years ago that back in 2000 and I think it was 2004 to 2007, the government handed off to a major firm in Washington, D.C., a major public relations firm, a major big project. And that was game out disclosure. Tell us how you think it will go, right? All the lead up, the afterwards, all the factors, put all the things together. It took 3 years and gave them the report. So they've been studying this. This is not new. They know what's going on. And again, that is why it makes sense what happened with the TTSA. The move by the DOD to enter the issue through a surrogate operation because they could not publicly do this themselves. I'm not saying it's formal. I'm just saying it's emerging out of there. And then have them move forward with actions like the New York Times material and all these stories. There's more to come. Is because they get it. They know, like you and I, there's no panic. People are not going to quit the Catholic Church, divorce their spouse. They're going to basically sit in front of their TV if they're lucky to have one and watch it for weeks on end because it will dominate the news for quite a while and in a much more entertaining way than the news has been dominated of late.
I don't think there's any question about that. And I think it's going to be it's not going to be the end of civilization. Wall Street's not going to collapse. The Vatican's not going anywhere. It's not going to be that. It's going to be the next chapter in human history and how we move on. It will be captivating television and news for a decade. It's going to be very interesting.
Let me put it this way. It will be part of human existence forever. Mm-hmm. Humans get bored pretty quickly. You'll be shocked at how quickly they adapt to the ET presence. Okay. I mean, first of all, everything on Amazon will have an ET face on it or something. I mean, ET underwear, ET toothbrushes, ET teddy bears, whatever the hell. Right. But it's all ET and they'll get sick of it pretty quickly. But one thing that will be the same afterwards is that the day after disclosure, the world is going to have all the exact same problems they have right now. And there's a big list, right? Big list of these problems. You're going to have all of the same problems. And all of the things that we know are going wrong and can get worse right now, that will still be the case the day after disclosure. The difference is that the way we look at these problems may very quickly, not day one, but soon change. It may alter. It's like a different prism, a different look will start to spread around the world, which I believe may lead to us actually doing the things we have to do to fix these problems. That's where disclosure pays off. I don't think it's possible for the human race to say, okay, there's ETs here. Yeah, they've been engaging us. Yeah, they've been taking people and dealing with them in various ways, contactees, abductees, and yeah, they got technology, and yeah, the government knows about it. But, hey, that's interesting. Now let's get back to fucking things up, right?
Yeah.
Let's get back to screwing up the planet. No, I just don't think so. How that's all going to play out? I just want to be part of it. I just want to play a little part in that post-disclosure rollout and where we go, because the opportunity for an activist like myself, post-disclosure, is far greater and far more expansive than in the lead up to disclosure, this difficult period.
I was watching David Attenborough's new film, and about nature and the planet and where we are today and his life of adventure. But and it's a great film, but what he brought up was one of the most interesting points that you just brought up, which is we have managed since 1965, when the world was still half wild. Half wild. Right? It was half wild. It's not that way anymore. In 1960, the population of the world was 3 billion. And in obviously we know now it's 7.5 billion, closing on 8, soon to be 10. And the world isn't half wild anymore. It's 25% wild. We have got to stop. We have got to stop and take care of and fix what we have now. What's going to be the big wake-up call? I'm going to tell you right now. It's going to be ET. And you want to know why? Not for the reasons other people think. I think it will give us a reason to take care of the planet, to have a future, a reason to move forward. If we're alone in the universe, if we are truly alone in the universe, screw it. Burn this sucker down, man. Let's just party. There's no reason. And do you understand why I'm leaning that way? And it took Attenborough to just kind of close that case for me.
That's where my head's been at for some time. There's no question. Let's go back a little further. At the beginning of the 20th century, the population of the planet was about 1.67 billion.
Mm-hmm.
But the technological revolution was starting to get going. We know where that went, right? All of the ways that we learned how to create and higher production and so forth. Had we been a little more knowledgeable and more, mature, there was a moment there when, wow, if we were to somehow globally interact with each other and come together with a population management program that's non-coercive, but incentivized and so forth, and really work to level the population off. And then that technological explosion had continued as expected, so that you, as the century moves on, you've got about the same number of people, but the technology and the resources available to that same number of people just grew and grew and grew. We had the potential for a paradise, an absolute paradise. But we didn't have the ability to interact country to country at that level and come to that kind of an understanding. And we were still committed in many cultural ways and religious ways to, you can't have too many kids. So what we did is had World War I. Okay, so we have World War I. It's awful beyond description. And that gets over. The population is increasing. And as we approach, then we had World War II.
Okay, let's stop. Well, Stephen, let's stop right there. Yeah. I got to get a commercial break in. And that's the perfect segue. And we will roll into World War II when we come back after this short break. Our guest tonight, the executive director of the Paradigm Research Group, Stephen Bassett. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. More with Stephen after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Julian. You're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Steven Bassett, PRG. We're
we're going to discuss tonight. We've got some other stuff we're going to get into at the bottom of the hour, but we are discussing disclosure in 2021, the changes that the planet has been going through and what a post-disclosure world will look like. And right before the break, Stephen, we were discussing the changes at the turn of the century, population 1.5 billion people, World War I. Then we got to World War II.
Yeah, we have World War II, which is the big one, the war to end all wars. And that wraps up in 45 with a couple of nuclear bombs. All right. At that point, the population was about 3 billion. So it had doubled from 1.5 to 3 billion. But a lot more people were aware that, hey, wait a minute. Okay, look, we've had this war to end all wars. We sort of know how bad it can be. We've got nukes and stuff. If we can get it together now, if we can come together as a globe and deal with the issues before us, disarm, develop incentivized but non-coercive population management programs and concepts, keep the population down. The technological explosion is picking up speed. Industrialization was incredibly increased during the war. This planet could be fine. It could be fantastic. That was 1945. What we chose to do was to launch a Cold War. And over the next 44 years, spent trillions of dollars on nuclear weapons and other weapon systems and a bunch of proxy wars where we couldn't fight each other because of mutual assured destruction. So we fought proxy wars on other people's soil and shed their blood. And we did that all the way up to 1991. And that's when it ended. At that point, again, we had another opportunity. Okay, look, the Soviet Union is ended. They let 14 republics go. The remaining Soviet republics went capitalist. They're cranking out millionaires left and right. They outlawed the Communist Party. We won. Okay, now is the opportunity. Let's. There's still time. Let's come together as a planet. Use the United Nations more. Whatever it takes. Get things under control. Population management. No, that's not what we did. Instead, we went forward with what is now a shadow Cold War, which has been continuing since then. More arms development, more proxy wars, more trillions of dollars spent on weapon systems and so forth, and no population management. And so we reached the present time, say 2017, and the population is 7.5 billion. 5 times what it was in 1900. And at that point, we're screwed. You know, we had 4 golden opportunities. We had the knowledge. I mean, there weren't people that didn't know this, but they couldn't coalesce. They couldn't. Enough leaders were not listening to them. There was just not enough critical mass. But it was always there. The concepts were there. The way to go forward was there. As of 2000, no. We'd screwed every opportunity. Everything was going to hell. The risk of nuclear war was greater than ever, and we were basically screwed. Okay. Not that I'm not used to that. I mean, I was born about a year and a half after the nukes were dropped on Japan. I've lived my entire life under the nuclear Damocles sword. I've always assumed there's going to be a nuclear war. I've always felt we were screwed. I had a little hope at the end of the Cold War. I started to go, hey, we may get out of this. But so the idea that we were screwed wasn't that new to me. I mean, it was okay. However, by 2017, I was like 21 years into the ET issue, and I had new perspective on things. All right. Yeah, we're screwed, but we may have an exit card. We may have a get out of jail free card. And of course, it's disclosure. Now, the interesting thing about that is it isn't an accident. I do not believe at all this is just an accident and we just got lucky. The ET engagement since 47 has been taking all of this into account. Mm-hmm. They are aware of the population increase. They're aware of the biosphere degradation. They're aware of the failure to deal with conflicts, weapons. They're aware of most of our craziness. And there are implications for them. There always were. And because of those implications for them, and also perhaps concerned that we have a civilization here, it'd be ashamed to waste it, right? They have created a process that they have helped to feed. They've helped to push it forward. And that process is the disclosure small d process. ultimately creating a situation where acknowledgement is inevitable and we have to do it, and we do it. And then once we have acknowledged their presence, disclosure has taken place, we go post-disclosure, we go ET 24/7. And by the time we're, a year or two, we're so thoroughly up to speed on everything, they can now disclose themselves. They can now go open contact with us, not just secreted contact.
Sure.
And we can actually get down to business. And get down to business, I mean, they're talking to the whole world in a sense through whatever media. Get down to what's the business? The business is, look, you got to get rid of the news. You got too many people. That's kind of something we could talk about. But look, you got to get rid of the nukes. And we say, well, why? Because if you don't, you're going to use them on yourselves and destroy yourself. And we think that's a terrible waste. But more importantly, you can't engage us unless you do. In other words, you're about to figure out interstellar travel. You're right there. I'm following the science. It's close.
It's real close. Yes.
There's a lot of people online right now that hard to find that are basically saying they've already figured it out. And there's been huge efforts inside the government we don't even know about. But we know intellectually that there's a workaround to relativity, because there has to be. Otherwise, they couldn't be here. They're not from Mars. They're not from Saturn. They're from another solar system. And the nearest one at 50,000 miles an hour would take something like 20,000 years to get to. So they have worked it. Okay. So, you're going to have interstellar. That's great. That'll be, look, you'll be able to go to the galaxy, but we got a problem with that because you're going to take your nukes. You're going to take your nukes. Of course you are. And we're not going to let you do that. There's no way we're letting you loose in this solar system with nukes in an interstellar craft. You get it? That's why we've been pushing this all along. There are other reasons, but that's the key one, why we're not just waiting. I mean, we could continue to take people and work with them or hang out with you, take samples, whatever the hell, for another 100 years, 20. Doesn't. But unfortunately, the nukes. Now, we can blow them all up. We could do a lot of things to basically denude you of the ability to do much of anything, but that's destructive. I mean, that's not the way we roll by and large. There's another way. You get rid of the nukes. You get rid of the nukes. Your stress levels will go way down. You'll have a lot more money to invest in, food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, whatever the hell. And you'll be able to build those interstellar craft. And in the meantime, we have maybe the ability to help you. We do have some really nifty technologies, and some of these could help you. There's nothing you can give us, but we can help you. People say, well, why would they want to do that? It happens on the earth all the time. Advanced countries have been giving technology and help to other countries for 100 years or more, if not longer. It's typical. Sometimes it's exploitive. Sometimes it's altruistic. But yeah, look, you're not developed. We are. Here's some tech, help you out. Like, vaccination everyone in the Middle East for cholera. Virtually eliminated it in a short amount of time. They have healing techs. They have the potential benefits that could come from open contact, agreeing to get rid of the nukes, being able to go interstellar, and maybe getting ET technologies, and all within the next couple of years. For someone that gets that, you could see, and I'm not saying many people have, though I think the number's growing. I get it. I think you get it. You could see how you would get worked up. You could see how you could get pretty passionate about this, right? This isn't some pie in the sky idea. It is essentially a simple, straightforward extrapolation of 70 years of evidence that we have gathered all this time and what we know. There are other possibilities, but I would love to argue with any futurist or Harvard professor about these other possibilities and hear what they have to say about it. I don't think it would be a fair fight. So in any event, that is the context that we are in right now as we possibly get to the end of the truth embargo, in which case now I get to drop a nice one here into the show to help you with your ratings and everything. This is I have some important stuff to talk about later, but this one I want to get out early while everybody's still awake. It is coming across, first of all, the amount of activity going on is just impossible to follow. The number of podcasts, the number of articles, the number of investigations going on, the number of this, the number of that, the new people jumping in, higher quality people, new books are coming out. You can't find a skeptic debunker anywhere. I mean, literally. They've all moved to an island in the South Pacific or something.
Seems that way.
They just don't dare show up right now. There are a couple that occasionally do something on the Facebook or something and say something, but it doesn't go very far. And so, okay, fine, we know that. But now it's coming across my radar that something is in the works and it's huge. The New York Times put out 2 articles in December of 2017. These were bombshell articles, huge articles. They knew how big they were. They vetted them and they put them out. They knew how important they were, which is why I believe they brought Ralph Blumenthal
yes,
into the articles. Now, I'm not saying he didn't help write them. I'm sure he contributed. But Leslie Kean is a very accomplished writer and knows the field, and Arlene Cooper is accomplished. They didn't really need Ralph. So why would they bring him in? Because he's a 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner and a legend in journalism. They wanted to give extra gravitas to let everybody know we're serious about this. All right. Otherwise, Ralph is not going to attach his name to a couple of articles that are going nowhere. And so, okay, they put these out. And then what have they done since? Not much. There have been a couple of New York Times articles that have been interesting and, okay. And they may revisit a little of that, but pretty much standard stuff, but keeping their toe in the water. But you think that's all? Oh, no. What I believe is happening is that over the last 3 years, they've been doing investigative journalism on the issue, which is what has never been done. No one of the major journalist organizations have gone investigatory on this. That was the deal on the truth embargo. Write up stories, tell this, tell that, review this, but you don't send some Woodward and Bernsteins down to the Pentagon and go through our trash. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You don't try to find inside sources to meet in garages in Roslyn to pass you secret documents. You don't investigate, right? Because there's a truth embargo, and what for whatever reasons, what have you, that it became institutionalized and they stuck with it. But times have changed. Post the TTSA's launch in 2017, times have changed, and so I think they have been investigating some serious stuff in that 3 years. Now, I think they could have published some of this before now, but they learned their lesson from 2017. You could put out some bombshell story into that political mess that was going on in this country, and it was just going to drop into the ocean. It was just going to be dissipated. No one could pay attention, right? And then eventually you had the political mess plus the COVID. And so, no. Keep doing the research. They're not telling anybody. Nobody knows about these stories. Public doesn't know. You would never announce it. Wait for things to settle down, and then you can put those out. Well, things have settled down, haven't they? I believe there's some major stories coming out of the New York Times, investigatory, right, in which they have dug into some of the most famous stuff that we know about. And they've gotten their own information and added new information, and they're going to publish under the New York Times heading. If I'm right about this, the first one you see, the first New York Times investigative story, independent, meaning it wasn't handed to them by Leslie Kean or Luis Elizondo. They took their own people and went out and got it, mm-hmm. right? That's all you need to know, that hearings are going to follow very quickly. Because these New York Times stories of serious substance on the key issues is the perfect additional cover that's needed for the hearings. Being prepped in advance by Mellon is important. That's fine. But there's all of the politicians in town are going to view this as a huge risk, particularly the committee people. And so anything that gives them cover to accept these hearings and go, okay, let's have the hearings, let's have the witnesses, takes the pressure off of them. And heavy-duty New York Times investigative stories will make it much easier for the committee chairs to go, okay, look, we got to get on this. Bring the military witnesses in. We're going to hold Senate Intel hearings, congressional hearings in the House. We're going to get firsthand testimony, and we're going to get on top of this ourselves, the Congress. So we have information to decide about what we're going to do and how we're going to respond. And then the hearings take place, and I've said before many times where that goes. After a certain number of weeks or days of hearings, the president will be basically green-lighted. He'll have the green light to go ahead and announce the disclosure event. It will be safe, it will be appropriate, and it will be properly received. Not as a shock surprise from a president who knew all along and telling us today, but rather a president responding to huge testimony under oath in front of the Congress, broadcast to the world. So it's right there. And all the president is doing is acknowledging the truth of it, acknowledging the reality of it. And that takes all the political risk, most of the political risk out of it for everyone. And most people are not going to know the history. They're not going to not care about what didn't happen in 68 or what didn't happen in 40, 47, 52. They don't care about that. They're caring what's happening right now. And what's happening right now would be an appropriate, fully vetted process in which information is bring forth under oath. The Congress responds, the president responds, the announcement is made, and now what more can we learn? This is the way to do it, and there'll be minimal disruption and minimal pushback, or at least trolling of the government. Now that will come after disclosure, after things settle down. There will be people that are going to start raising a host of things which need to be discussed and answered for, and in some of it's very unpleasant, but it won't be that big a deal. I mean, people will say, okay, yeah, that's not good, but hey, we got ETs, so let's move forward. What do we got?
Has a reporter reached out to you, or two or three? Is there chatter about an impending article? And that we all know how it goes, Stephen. Every time one of these articles breaks, all of us in the community get contacted, and we all talk to each other, and things are happening. Are you saying that somebody has reached out to you?
All I can say is my radar. What is my radar? My radar is I'm on the social media. I'm following scores of researchers. I'm following all the news agencies. And I've got search terms in Google. I'm getting all of the articles and all the stuff, and that's coming in. And I'm reviewing. That's where the print media archive comes from. So that's my radar, right? And then I get some private emails, things like that. So all I can say is that radar, that total picture, it's coming across. I'm getting it. Okay. That's
so
what
you have been contacted. That's okay.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm seeing it on my look. If I had been contacted directly and told you can say that something's coming, but you can't use a name, I would do that. But if I was contacted directly and told you can't use a name, I wouldn't use the name, or you can't even relay it. I wouldn't relay it. I'm simply saying that I'm paying attention, and that's what I'm sensing. Now, look, even if someone contacted you and said it doesn't mean it's going to come. And everybody, anybody can change their mind at any time. All right. But let's just say that there's some historical forces going on here that are like the tide. Okay. Look, sometimes the tide is bigger and sometimes it's smaller, but it always comes in. All right. When you know the circumstances are set up, it's the right time of day, the tide's coming in. So there's historical forces that are moving forward, so that when something looks like it's going to happen, it's pretty likely it's going to happen, because history doesn't turn around like the tide and head back out.
I like your take that to get out and in front of the UAP task force and this report, that now we know we're 90 days out now, Stephen, right? It's not 180 days anymore.
No.
It's getting closer, and that the way to handle the impact of that and make sure that the impact is there is to have something break in the media.
Look, I invite people to not put a whole lot of energy into this report. All right. It's not that big a deal. It is a maneuver by Rubio, clever maneuver, setting up a situation where some agencies would provide something to the Senate Intelligence Committee. We don't know what. It could be very little. It could be ground. We have no idea. That's not the driver here. That's not the lead dog on this dog sled. The historical process is the hearings, which may be preceded by major articles out of the New York Times. Right? That's what's important. What we maybe get from some of these, like the ONI or any other agencies that are responding to Rubio's request, could be nothing. And in fact, that's a very significant thing. It could be nothing, right? I mean, they've played this game before, right? Now, if you look at all the documents the CIA was shoving out the door and everything else, clearly we know where the trend is going. However, there's still opposition to this process within the military intelligence complex. There are plenty of people that would be happy if we never learned about this, at least while they were alive. And they may suddenly get an upper hand, and next thing you know, they get a bunch of dribble. And that would be awful. Why? If we don't get the hearings done before that report, and the report comes back as like, it suddenly gives all the politicians an excuse. Oh well, look, there's nothing there, so they can bail, right? We don't need hearings. They just gave us reports, said it's no big deal, like the false reports we've gotten for decades, some of which were very expensive, 10, 20 million bucks. They're going, no big deal. That we can't let that happen. On the other hand, if the hearings take place soon, before the report comes, and everybody in those agencies is seeing these witnesses come up on the Hill, these military witnesses under oath testifying to nuclear weapons tampering and everything else we know about, and probably more we don't know about, the message to them is clear. You better come up with some serious stuff, dudes. We don't want any half-ass stuff. You better bring us some serious, dig down, do some declassification. What have you got to do? Let's give us some more. Add on to this testimony. And thus it gets even more powerful, even if we don't need it. Because again, so this is kind of a bit of a not a ruse, but it could be a straw man. It could be a head fake. And that's the way I encourage people to look at it. I understand why people are all fired up because they think this is it. This is disclosure. They're going to come back with docs and it's going to show it. That's not the way it works. And that's not disclosure is going to happen. It's not going to come from the O&I, right? This is simply something that Rubio did. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to put that in there. He had a reason. He put it in there because he was briefed by Mellon something was going down. He was briefed by Mellon. He knows that something's going to work, and he wanted to get ahead of it. This is his thing. This is not the DOD trying to get the O&I and other agencies to come up with a bunch of stuff. This is Marco Rubio making a play. Hey, great. It got a lot of press. It's raised the expectations. So I'm not saying it's not without value. Everything that's happening is helping to raise expectations. But I'm trying to focus on the core process that's going on. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's the big truck, right, that's carrying all the goods. And then you've got some bicycles out in front and in the back and everything. But the big truck, and we're talking about that. New York Times articles, hearings, military witnesses, and then a decision by the White House.
Very interesting chronology there. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Stephen Bassett. Extraordinary conversation. We're going to continue everything right where we are leaving off after this short break. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Stephen Bassett, PRG. More with Stephen in just a second, but I want to talk to you about Virtual Shield VPN. Everybody needs their own VPN. You've got to have it. I've got multiple computers here in the bunker. I've got a studio next door. Everything runs Virtual Shield VPN. It's the only VPN I will ever use because they have a strict no-log policy that is built into their software from the ground up for privacy protection. Virtual Shield routes your internet through advanced encrypted servers across the globe to prevent your internet service provider from spying on you. Think about that. Go to virtualshield.com/fade to black. That's all you've got to do. Do that. You will get Virtual Shield for 50% off today. You can also visit the link in the video description box below. It's very simple. Get Virtual Shield VPN. And our guest tonight is Stephen Bassett. And Stephen, I missed the message. Resend the message.
Oh, you remember the images I sent you?
I've got those. Oh, that's between you and I. Yeah, they're ready to go. I've got it ready to launch. So, and before we get into that, I wanted to ask you this. You're in Washington, D.C. You know more than most about how the system works. And we talk about compartmentalization of anything that is secret, and it's a need-to-know basis, and things are shifted into parallel worlds, and what one person knows, not necessarily everybody else knows, and with the UFO question, that's got to come into play. But I've often wondered how much power, not the president, but how much power does a senator have? The majority leader, the minority, how much power does a senator have to have access to scream about something and have access to something if they want it? Can they do that?
They can request, and clearly any request from a sitting senator, less so a sitting House member, can't just be ignored. And so they can put a little pressure. Stephen Schiff was a wonderful example of this. He tried to get information about Roswell. He was quite serious about it. He was a former veteran, Air Force veteran, Republican, and they gave him a runaround and irritated him, made him mad. And then ultimately, after he squawked about that, came back and said, "Look, what you're looking for is we can't find. It's gone." Right? He wanted specifically the phone records out of Roswell, which had been extremely, how would you say, interesting, and they were just gone. And he got mad, And so they shut him down. But he was just a House member. But they've stonewalled the president. So I assure you, if they can stonewall the president on this issue, meaning we're not going to even tell this president what's going on, they can certainly stonewall any member of Congress. So the power is limited. The president ultimately has the power. Every president every president going back to Truman, but every modern president, more recent, has the power to end this embargo. They've always had that. You may say, well, wait a minute. You say they stonewalled them, so if they stonewall them, then they don't know. No. The president is the commander-in-chief. The president appoints the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, and so forth. The president has the right to declassify anything in government. So any one of these presidents, including Trump, including Obama, of course, including Biden, though Biden, that's not the way to go. If they had wanted to expand the political capital, could have simply sent an emissary over to the DOD to speak directly to the Secretary of Defense, and possibly one to the CIA, and said, look, you're going to deliver to the president a complete, comprehensive list of all of your programs and what you have on the ET issue, not necessarily giant boxes of files, but you're going to give a total summary of everything. And if you do not do that, we're going to fire you. You're going to be gone. I mean, they can stonewall a president, but hey, the president can fire you, and now somebody takes your place. And then the people that take your place, we're going to ask the same thing of them, and if they don't provide it, we'll fire them. And so make up your mind. What are they going to do? Overthrow the government?
Well,
so they were always under that risk, but no president has done it.
Right. And I ask this very important question because here we have a moment with the Senate Intelligence Committee and the COVID bill and Marco Rubio and this discussion about the UAP task force and the disclosure of that, which was extraordinary in of itself. But that was a moment where I felt that Marco Rubio and the Senate Intelligence Committee, which holds a lot of weight, could have demanded this information instead of requested a report and waited for what somebody else has to say about it instead of making a formal request for the information, because the report is just a suggestion. Right? It's not law. There's nothing legally binding anybody to produce this report. They've just asked for it. So,
go ahead.
Could Marco have taken a different tact, is what I'm saying.
No.
Could he have demanded this?
That's not the way it works. For the Senate to basically the Senate to demand a full accounting of the ET issue. First of all, the president can declassify. The Senate can't declassify documents. So right away, they're blocked on that. So the president doesn't get involved. They could subpoena people, but it would be a total fiasco. I mean, it would just be way over their head. It couldn't happen. So what he did was put in a request. And it was in the comment section of the bill. It wasn't in the enumerated section of the bill, so it made it even more of a request. It wasn't It wasn't like a legal enumerated item.
No, it was just
basically
asking for a favor.
Yeah, it was Marco Rubio grabbing a piece of history. Okay, he's a very transactional guy.
Sure.
Mark Warner's name isn't on that. Mark Warner didn't come forward and talk about that. Now, he may have contributed to that. He may have supported the idea. But this is Marco. Look, he's a smart guy. He got briefed by some witnesses, maybe some pilots, maybe Mellon. And he put two and two together and say, whoa, this is big. How can I get involved? Well, what can he do? Hey, came up with a very good idea. Let's put this in the intelligence bill. Now, I don't think they had anything to do with the setting up of that task force, the O&I. That was probably the Navy just kind of setting something up, which is kind of a fault. It's not a false thing, but it's not a huge deal. But it's the interface. I mean, I guess I'm trying to describe some of the complex maneuverings that are going on as they deal with this opening up, this unfolding.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
A lot of it, they're playing it by ear. They can't be too open about it, but overall, they're pretty smart people. They've been doing complex things for a long time. And so ending the truth embargo was not that much more complex than the moonshot or World War II. So you see these things. But for most people, it's very hard to assess, well, what does that mean? And how important is that? I get it. That's why I come in. That's my job. My job is to say, okay, look, that's not a big deal. This is a big deal. And, you listen and agree or not. Doesn't matter. It's okay. So, again, it's very limited what the House and Senate could do. And again, Stephen Schiff knew this. But look, President Clinton was not only stonewall, but he pressed them hard enough. There's a lot of people don't know how hard he actually went after this. He finally got into it. He grabbed the bull by the horns, and he put a lot of pressure on the Air Force. So much pressure that Sheila Widnall had to authorize a study. I think the study cost $12 million, right? It went on for a couple of years. Yeah, a couple of years. And they finally came up with a report, I think in early 97. And it was the case closed report. In other words, it was the whole mogul balloon report. Just $12 million to come up with a mogul balloon lie, right? So that's how serious they are about blocking the president on this. Spend $12 million on a bogus report, right? All fancy and everything. Risk her legacy. She was actually a very qualified, very strong, very intelligent, talented woman, but her legacy will always be tainted by this in order to, quote, keep President Trump at bay. So I assure you, no senator is going to improve on that.
The other part about this, though, is the basics of the United States of America is that it's a government for the people and by the people. They work for us. It's not the opposite way around. And that is how we are supposed to look at our country. Doesn't the people of the United States have the actual power to push this issue?
Not exactly. We have representative democracy. And representative democracy means that we elect people to stand in our stead, right, in order to deal with the complexities of a vast country, right? And that's the way it has to be. I mean, a full-fledged democracy where everything that gets done in government is put to a vote of the entire country, I assure you would be total chaos, and it wouldn't work. And so, naturally, when it comes to the most complicated, difficult, implicative issues, that's when the representatives definitely have their role. Right? And so the point is not shouldn't the American people be able to demand the disclosure of the ET presence because it's a government by the people for the people, right? It's a matter of could the American people put representatives in that would exercise their powers and as a result help bring about disclosure representing the American people. Yes, they could do that, but one of the effects of the truth embargo, again, which is both successful misdirection lie of all history. I don't think anything compares to it, to how complex it was and how long it lasted. There was no way we were going to get people in government. For most of the last 70 years, you couldn't get a serious candidate for Congress to even utter the word extraterrestrial or alien or UFO. They were petrified of it for most of that time. I was the first candidate ever on a congressional ballot, actually on the November ballot now, not some primary ballot, talking extraterrestrials in the debates. That's the first one. That was 2002. Right. Since then, there's been about 3 more. But you see, so that ain't going to happen. So the representatives, but can the people go around the representatives? Hey, during the Vietnam War, we did that. We went around the representatives. We climbed steps. We went in the streets. We raised hell. A couple of people sat out in front of the didn't get shortened at all. I know that a lot of politicians were affected, and a lot of politicians did step forward and try to address that war and try to end that war. So the people were pushing them that way. but it wasn't so much they were electing anti-war candidates because the war was moving so fast. They did get some in, but overall that wasn't the way people are getting elected. It's very hard to get elected on an anti-war basis. But there were those that were already serving that got on. So they brought some politicians, but it wasn't enough. And the American people have learned.
Well, let me ask you this, Stephen. Going back to that 1997 report where the GAO, the General Accounting Office, was pulled in and said, we got nothing. We looked at everything.
That's not that one. This is the Air Force report.
But
the Mogul Balloon report is the Air Force.
Right.
The GAO is the report to Stephen Schiff.
To Stephen Schiff. So the GAO's pulled in, and you would think, okay, they don't really have a horse in this race. They're going to remain objective, and they are going to get down to the numbers. And they said, we've got nothing. If things move forward in 2021, like we see them happening, does an agency like the GAO now have to answer to that, like a past report where they said, we've got nothing? Now documents are coming out and everything else. There was obviously a lot of something.
Sure.
Do they have to be held accountable?
Held accountable? I don't know. Will it be addressed? Oh, yes, it will. This comes under public relations mostly. In most cases, the people involved in much of this government shenanigans are no longer in the positions they were. They're gone. They're retired, whatever.
Right.
So you're dealing with different people. The agency, though, should be held accountable for basically giving the runaround to Schiff. All of this, I think, will be dealt with, but it will be a side show. I mean, I think I may get involved there, but there will be kind of a side issue. Okay, we need this. Let's get that out. Let's get this out. You see how hard it is to get things out. There's been so much crap going on the last 4 or 5 years, and they've been trying to get the bottom of it. And my God, it's like herding camels in the middle of the desert. It's ridiculous. So it's not easy. However, this issue is so powerful and so nonpartisan. It's not a Republican or Democratic issue. That I think that a lot of the stuff that happened will be vetted and out there. And so people will know, yeah, okay, this is what, and this is important. We do need to get a relatively comprehensive picture of how the truth embargo is managed. How is it done? What agencies were involved? What did they do? And so forth. Not to sue people or take them to trial, because again, those people are probably gone in most cases. But so we understand how it happened, so we can prevent it from happening again.
Do you think that I'm going to have to jump in? Do you think that the American people will be understanding with the explanations? You know, like the Manhattan Project, okay? Massive secret, lies, deceit, cover up because it just had to get done. All right. Do you think that the American public, the citizens of this country, will be understanding of the truth embargo?
Absolutely. They have just been told there's extraterrestrials. And all kinds of amazing and interesting things could be coming out any day now. And we're not alone in all of this stuff. And I assure you, very few of them are going to care that the GAO jammed up Stephen Schiff back in 1996. They're not going to care that Sheila Widnall broke her oath, the Constitution, and stonewalled the president. They're just not going to care. But history will care. And there will be certain individuals that will care for the reasons I've just mentioned. This can never happen again. We can never have a situation where the United States government literally lies to the people about something incredibly significant for 70, not just lies, but undermines the effort to find the truth, misleads, misdirects, stonewalls, and all that for 70. This can never happen again. It is done as much as anything to undermine the trust in government that we are now suffering from now. Trust in government is so bad. It's amazing that anything will get done. We are going to see some things getting done. And that will help bring back some of that trust. And that may make things go a little smoother. But nothing will bring back trust in government like the government telling some really hard truths. Meaning taking responsibility and telling some really hard truths. Truths that are going to be profound and exciting and what have you, but truths nevertheless. That is how you get trust back. Not by lying better to people, but by telling them the truth. The government has a chance here. Joe Biden has a chance to make the biggest truth statement in all of history. And he's relatively insulated from most of the downside. He's been off to the side, always there, but never directly involved. He's perfect, to be honest with you, to be the disclosure president, in my view.
Now, is it possible, and I don't want to get all hippy-dippy kumbaya, right? I don't want to go all new agey here, but I am. Is it possible that we have this change in consciousness and we turn into the people of Earth and not the people of the United States and Russia and China with borders? Do we make that transition?
No, that's not the transition you want.
Why not?
The transition is one species. We need to see ourselves as one species. Everybody's a human being.
Okay, are we saying the same thing then? Aren't we?
Exactly. In other words, one species. All right, because they are one species. They come from a planet, and they are the top species there. Now, it's possible to have a planet that has more than one technological, intelligent, sentient species. It could happen.
Right.
We have other intelligent species on our planet, but they just don't have fingers. All right, so they're not building rocket ships and computers. But let's just say it's one species, one planet. So they got their planet, they've got their species. We got a planet, we got a species. Okay, that's where we need to go. All right. Recently, I think 6 or 7 Asian women were slaughtered by some guy. I forget the city. Just did it today. This kind of crap. It's nonsense. One species. Now, we're one species on a planet of 200 nations. All right, because you can't govern 7 billion people from a single legislature or something like that. Too much territory, too many people. So you have different cultures. So you have countries with their sets of laws. And
you think that would be the same way for an advanced civilization, not of our own, out there in the Milky Way somewhere, that they, in their advanced state, that they are not governing from one position, that they are still localized?
It depends on the size of the planet, the population.
Right.
And you could have an advanced civilization on a planet that's only got 5 million people, 10 million people. They might govern from a single point, but we don't have that. We've got 7 billion.
Right.
And
who does ET negotiate with here?
They negotiate with the planet. They're not going to be setting up separate trade deals with different countries.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So who did the famous words, right? Take me to your leader.
All right. Perfectly. You know all the right questions, dude. Have you been in this issue for a while?
I've never. This is my first show.
First day, yeah. Logically, they should, in open contact post-disclosure, they should be engaging with the UN. That's who they should be working through. However, the UN has been significantly scarred, undermined, and weakened. It's almost irrelevant now. So I'm projecting that either the UN will be completely revitalized, which is doable, or they will just shut it down and start a whole new organization that will be a global organization, kind of like the UN, but structured in different ways. And that fresh new organization, without the baggage, will be the intersection point. And they will talk through that entity. That is the logical way to do this. And these entities seem to be quite logical. So it would be like that. And then information would be then provided from the global organization, the intermediary, which could be the UN, to heads of state. They would get together in Security Council and to discuss it and decide how to respond, all that kind of stuff. That would be the appropriate way to do it. Now, there are some countries that are going to hold back and say, we don't want any part of this, or try to cut a side deal. I don't know what they're going to do. There's potential for plenty of bad behavior initially. But again, each day after disclosure, things will settle in a little bit. And people, very smart people, will readjust their thinking, recalculate their equations and decide, all right, how should we respond? What should we do now? And they'll have some time. I don't see open contact for at least 2 years. They'll have time to think all this through and make some adjustments on the planet. Will they? Will communist China change at all? Will the Soviet Union change? How will they adapt? There'll be two things in play. We're getting into the advanced post-disclosure stuff. This is the postgraduate stuff.
Sure.
Because post-disclosure, the major powers need to reassess their relationship. We're not alone in the universe. There's extraterrestrials here. How should China and the U.S. interact? How should the Soviet Union, U.S. interact, and so forth, right? Do we disarm? Do we step back? Do we cut back on our... Do we continue an economic zero-sum game conflict? In other words, China can't become number one economy. We'll take them down. We have to blah blah blah. Do we sanction each other to death? What do we do? We do a reset? Okay, let's reset under this extraordinary new situation and see where it takes us. That's one thing that's going on. At the same time, each of these major nations, and the other nations too, but the major ones are the major players, are having to contemplate how are we going to relate to the ETs and whatever is coming from them if they go open contact. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that will emerge post-disclosure, and that's the one that's the biggest public relation issue, it's the big one from the standpoint of tough questions, is the contact phenomenon, which is worldwide, involving millions of people, Russians, Chinese, Americans, and there's not a damn thing these governments could do about it. And they're going to have to discuss that. They're going to have to talk. They're going to have to acknowledge it. And that's going to be particularly difficult for them, but that's the way it is. I mean, that's the reality of it. And so they're going to be dealing with that. So there's going to be two things going on at the same time. How to reassess the terrestrial relationships, how to contemplate the extraterrestrial relationship as respect to China or the Soviet Union or the Earth in total.
Now, we're going to discuss all of this more after the break, and we're going to go into a deep dive in another direction. But in the 1 minute that I have left, Stephen, before the break, is this. I know that we and Russia and China and Israel and Great Britain and Japan and Australia and Canada, what have you, France, Spain, Italy, are all going to have the same concerns. They don't want ET to choose sides or have a best friend or have an appearance that, they're getting along, their relationship is with the Russians.
Of course.
Right? And that is going to be the underlying thing that is going to be going on because that is just human nature.
It'll be on their mind, but it won't be difficult to dissuade them of that. That's not been what we've seen. The ETs turn our nuclear weapons off. They turn
not ET, but Russia doesn't want this to be an ET United States
that's the point
relationship. Yeah,
they haven't been dealing with us that way. They turn our nukes off. They turn the Russian nukes off.
Right.
They're not showing special favors that we can see. It's just not there. And it would be crazy for them to do that. I think the extraterrestrials could care nothing. They could care very little about the China-U.S. problems or the Russia-U.S. problems or the Arab-Israeli problems. And from their perspective, these are nothing, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. They are operating on a much grander scale. They will affect those things, but like they care, no.
Yeah, right. I got to take a break right here, and this is the other thing that I've thought about, which is we'll see a sudden change in attitude. I think from all countries on the planet. Everybody's going to want to be likable, right? That's
works for me.
Yeah, everybody's going to want to be likable. This is Fade to Black. Take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to change directions, but we're still on target. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Steven Bassett after this short break.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Steven Bassett. Tomorrow night, attorney James Lowe is here. It's going to be an extraordinary conversation. Thursday night, of course, is Fader night. Open lines all night long. Tonight, Stephen Bassett. And now, Stephen, last week I interviewed Harvard's Avi Loeb. And a very interesting conversation. And Avi, for our community and the world, sticking his neck out when it comes to the UFO question and Oumuamua. His new book, Extraterrestrial, is just an unbelievable read. To have somebody with his pedigree sticking his neck out like that. And, of course, Harvard always comes into play. But he wasn't the first guy out of Harvard. And my question is, what is it in the water at Harvard that allows these extraordinary men and women to speak about these issues?
Avi Loeb's emergence is one of a couple of things that got me thinking about the past, and that was also in conjunction with the fact that I still have quite a few colleagues that they're frank about telling me that disclosure is not happening now, and it's not going to happen for years, if not decades. And I've got some that think it'll never happen. And I've got others, I hear this from time to time, and nothing has changed, it's all the same. And so I want to respond to that thinking with a story. And it goes like this. I got into this field, as I've talked about on the radio before, in 1996. I went to Cambridge, Massachusetts. I arrived on January 26th to work as a volunteer for an organization called the Program for Extraordinary Experience Research, which was set up by John Mack to study contactees. One of the key reasons I did this, which changed my life completely, was because I read Abduction that he published in 1994, Human Encounters with Aliens. And that was a profound impact on me and helped me make the decision. So it was a big deal. So I arrived. Dr. Mack was not there. He was out of town. And so I think he came about a week later. So it was around 1st of February. And so Dr. Mack came back to the office and came on up. And there was a little kind of party just welcoming him back. And we were in a communal room and having some, I don't know, cookies or some lemonade or whatever the hell. But when he arrived, there was something waiting for him, and it was in the mail. It was a pre-screening of a Nova documentary that had been put together about his work and the work of Bud Hopkins. And boy, the title of it escapes me right now. I can't believe it. I had it set up. I don't want to go hunting for it. The point is that, and this documentary aired about a month later in February. So naturally, when he got there, he put it into the cassette to watch it because he knew this was coming and he'd done the interviews, and they put it in to watch it along with some of the staff. And it turned out that the documentary that Nova put together was a hit piece on him and Bud Hopkins. And it was bad. We learned later that the producer, one of the women producers of this documentary, which was supposed to be different than that, it was supposed to be a kind of just a somewhat neutral examination of the issue. When she learned that the powers that be had decided to make it a hit piece, she resigned.
Was it the kidnapped?
Yeah, kidnapped by aliens.
Yeah, kidnapped by aliens. Right.
So we watched this, and it was painful. And so this was his welcome back to the office. And they turn it off, and everybody's kind of commenting about that and walking around. And it happened to be sitting behind, not standing behind him. He was on the couch facing across to the television. I was standing off to his right, just against the window. And I just happened to hear him say to himself, he was saying under his breath to himself, "The fascists are coming for me." Now, let me give some background to this. You see, John Mack engaged this issue because Bud Hopkins introduced him to it and convinced him to go forward. And Thomas Kuhn, the legendary philosopher and scientist, also encouraged him. And so he decided to do this, even though he knew it was risky. He started talking to contactees. He actually set up a huge symposium at MIT. The MIT didn't sponsor it, but MIT, it was setting there. And David Pritchard, who was an MIT professor, sort of sponsored it. They brought in contactees. This is 92, and they published a huge record of this symposium, which is sitting right behind me now on my wall. That was 92, and then he moves forward to do the book. And something happened. Not surprisingly, there was pushback. And it came from a not surprising place. What happened was, in 1994, a woman came to him wanting to talk with him about her contactee experience. In other words, to be one of the people that he's working with as part of the development of the project. She had a number of sessions with him. but she was faking it. In other words, she wasn't a contactee. She was making it all up. And after doing a number of sessions with him, she headed straight over to Time magazine and said, guess what? I just fooled John Mack. I'm not a contactee. He believed everything hook, line, and sinker. And as a result, Time magazine on April the 25th of 1994 published, 95. This is happening in 95. April 1995 published, or hang on. I got to go back here. I got it confused. It's 94. They published this article, right, which was bad, okay? And in 1 month, within 30 days, that is when the Harvard Medical School decided to open up an inquiry into his work.
Take him to court. Yeah.
Well, not the court.
Well, you know what I'm saying. It's their version.
But and it's the first time that a tenured professor at Harvard had ever been put to this tribunal. So they're going to assess his work with the idea that he's committed serious, mistakes and that are, going to reflect badly on Harvard and the medical school and all of this. It could destroy his legacy and destroy his career. They investigated for 10 months. And ultimately, it came together where they're going to sit down and go over all the evidence and so forth. By then, John Mack had brought in Danny Sheehan to be one of his attorneys. And Danny's a genius. He's an activist attorney, okay? And the role of the activist is to comfort the afflicted and inflict the comfortable. And he did both. So Danny comes in, and when he gets done with that panel, as far as his presentation, it was over. And this tribunal essentially agreed to him that Mack could continue to do whatever he liked, and there would be no problems from them. Though they did say he had a couple of methodology issues, but they didn't act on that. And that was over. And it was over in mid 1995, somewhere around that range, maybe even later. It might get done till the fall. Okay, so and by the way, he spent $250,000 on his defense, which his parents, I think, put up their houses. But I think ultimately, I believe that was covered by none other than Lawrence Rockefeller, who actually funded PRG for 4 years to $250,000 a year. I think so. He covered most of that. And Rockefeller, a lot of people don't know that. And so he's gotten through that. And now it's 1995. He's through that, and then it's 1996. He's in the office, and there's the Nova documentary, and I hear him say those words, meaning they're coming to get me. Right? Still, okay. Now here's the first punchline in my little story. The woman that set John Mack up was the wife of a journalist, a writer, who happened to be working with Philip Klass. So essentially, Philip Klass went after John Mack. He tried to take him down by pulling a con on him, using the wife of one of his colleagues. Then she put a con on Time magazine, and eventually turned up again at a dinner to embarrass him, and then faded into history. I don't know what happened to him. Phil Klass was an evil man.
Yes, he was.
He was an absolutely evil man. And he's not the only person he tried to bring down. And Friedman said he had some decent research information that indicated that he might have been working for the CIA or the FBI, in which case he was doubly evil. And the government may have to answer for that someday. Okay, so that was then, all right? Now, I left after 4 months, and I went down to Washington to become a political activist, which is what I was. I knew I was an activist because I identified a lot more with who was that activist? Oh God, I'm having another blank hole. Pick one of the great activists from the Chicago 7, Abby Hoffman. I identified more with Abby Hoffman than Dr. Richard Feynman. So I go down to become an activist in D.C., 8 years go by. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I set up the X conference. I started the X conference, the first one, 2004. And I really wanted to get John Mack to come and speak. And I approached him about it. But he's a busy guy, and it was the first X conference. You don't know how it's going to go. So he demurred. No problem. The conference went very well. But I said, I'm going to get John for 2005. I'll get him to come to that. It would have been fantastic. I didn't get the chance because in September of 2004, he was killed in a pedestrian accident in London. All right. Now, I'm going to go into this a little bit for a reason. Okay. I've been to London many times, spent a lot of time there, love it. And where I stay there is only there's just 2 underground stops from where John lost his life. And so the last time I was there, which was in 2017, I fled to London after the election in order to get some training and stiff upper lip or whatever and just cool down. And I went up there to actually the spot to check it out. And I think on your Twitter page.
I just posted.
Under Jimmy Church.
Yep.
You have put those. So those that are following you on the Twitter live or something, they can go there. Or if you have Twitter, you can go to Jimmy Church's Twitter and you can see the photos. And here's what you're seeing. One of the photos is a Google Earth shot of the locale there. And on the right, you can see the Totteridge metro station, little red circle. And on the far left, you'll see the intersection of Totteridge Lane and what's the other one?
Longland.
I think it's Longland Drive.
Yes.
Okay. And then just to the right of that, there's an arrow that points to a crossing. You can see a white arrow, and that points to the crossing where John Mack stepped out. He was on his way back from a meeting at a house, gathering, whatever. He was heading back either to the metro to get to his hotel, or the hotel was down in Totteridge. I don't know, but he was headed that way. In order to get there, he had to cross the street at that crossing point. And I stood on that crossing point. To the right is a road that goes down to the metro, and that road basically goes through woods. There's no houses there, and so the people coming up that road are moving along. I mean, they're moving fast. There's no houses, no cross streets, and there's also no lights. And so when you're at night and you're looking down that road, it's dark. It's completely black. He arrived at that crossing at about 11:45 at night. He was almost certainly wearing his standard outfit, his black coat, his black pants, but his white shirt. But he was sideways to the road. So the white shirt was not visible. It was just John Mack's black suit and John Mack's black hair. And he did something that I've done. He looked left instead of right, because in the UK, you got to look right. And he simply stepped right out in front of that truck, which hit him probably without even braking. And he was thrown quite a ways. He was conscious for a brief period and died on the scene. The driver of the truck was a Czechoslovakian who stopped, got out, tried to address the situation. The police came, dealt with it. He was checked out. He had some alcohol in him. It's not clear if he was drunk. I don't think he was, but he'd had some alcohol. He had a couple of beers at the pub, which obviously was not a good thing. He was charged with drunken driving and manslaughter. Okay. And why? And by the way, and then there's a photo up there. There's a photo up there as well of the crossing. But if you look at the hedge behind the crossing, you see a rose. When I was there taking those photos, I put a rose in that hedge, just as a little remembrance of John Mack. And I have those in my files now. Why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing this is because there are still quite a few people out there on social media, here and there, whatever, because of the nature of things. I get it. that raise the prospect or even emphatically state that John was murdered by the deep cabal, the deep state, or whatever, because of the work that he was doing. He was not murdered. This was an accident. The family recognized that. The family even asked that the gentleman be given clemency because they knew it was not intentional. He meant no harm, and I think ultimately he's given 6 months and 3 years suspension from driving. That's the kind of family that John Mack had. So I just want to get that out there. It was an accident. Okay. Now let's jump forward a quarter century. Okay. So you saw what happened back then, and so we have a new development, right? Let me see if I got that here. I'll get that up. Okay, there we go. So these are wild and crazy times. So naturally, this is the time, as a couple of years ago, not too long ago, 18 months, when a piece of space Flautus comes flying through the solar system at 58,000 miles an hour and becomes the first extrasolar object actually tracked, known to be tracked. They might have tracked, some didn't know it. Came in from outside our solar system and left our solar system at 58,000 miles an hour. And naturally, every astronomer in the world was on top of this baby. I mean, this is gold for astronomy. And so they're all looking at it, including a gentleman by the name of Dr. Avi Loeb at Harvard. And he analyzed the trajectory and looked at it real hard. And he thought he saw some interesting anomalies. And maybe there were. He could have easily put out a range of options on that. He could have simply published, yeah, here's what I saw. I don't know what it means. He could have ignored it altogether. Instead, he jumped in with both feet.
Certainly did.
He went medieval on this piece of rock. And I'm telling you, it's a piece of rock, okay? It's a rock. A lot of people go, well, no. It's supposed to be round, right? And it's elongated. You know, it's like, and how? So it's got to be round. Like, no. The reason that all the asteroids rather, in the belt, there's millions of them, are mostly round. They have the shape that they do, is because for hundreds of millions of years, particularly in the early days, after the planet blew up, they're going around in circles, crashing into each other, binging here and binging there and bouncing off each other. Sometimes they'd send something off into the north, something off south, send something into the earth. And all of that banging together just hone them down into balls and clumps that are of that typical size. It would be difficult to have that super elongated and maintain that elongated structure when you're banging into stuff all the time. So this thing comes from out of the solar system. God knows it got thrown out from some planetary explosion or whatever. And instead of staying within the star system and just cruising around with all the other asteroids and banging around and getting reduced to a ball, it headed on out into space as a nice shard. That explanation works with me. The other stuff, not so much, but it's okay. It's okay. It's a theory. It's a theory. So, and by the way, they mentioned that it came from this, I think, what was this? Vega. Well, just for, FYI, the Vega system is 20 light years away. So if it came from the Vega system, really came from it, at 50,000, 8,000 miles an hour, it would take 110,000 years. No, 220,000 years to get here. So if it's a probe, it's they're playing the long game, right? They're playing the long game. So, okay. And I'm amused by it all when it first started, but it continued. He doubled down. He doubled down again. He really went, the interviews, the whole 9 yards. And of course, he publishes a book in which it's the centerpiece, not all. And the book is titled Extraterrestrial. The first
visitor from interstellar space.
Yeah, the first visitor from interstellar space. Okay. Now that's cool. I like the title, and it's already a bestseller.
Have you read it? Have you read it?
I downloaded it, and I will be reading in the next couple of days.
I'm
sure it's great.
It's a page turner. Yes.
Sure it is. It's a great book, but let's be clear. The fundamental premise is profoundly wrong. Oumuamua is not the first evidence of interstellar travel. We've got them flying all over the friggin' sky. We got him taking our brother-in-laws up into craft for the occasional inspection. All right?
No question.
We got evidence up the yin-yang. But it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. I don't expect him to go there. So there he is. Now let me just kind of, I'm going to read a little bio of him. This is the bio up at Harvard. This is a heavy-duty dude. Avi Loeb is the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science at Harvard University and a best-selling author because of a book published this week. And by the way, I think 5 languages. He received a PhD in physics from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in Israel at age 24, led the first international project supported by the Strategic Defense Initiative. He was involved in that, so was Sagan, and was subsequently a long-term member of the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton. That's where Einstein went. Loeb has written in books, including most recently Extraterrestrial. All right. He has been the longest-serving chair of the Harvard's Department of Astronomy, 2011 to 2020. Founding director of Harvard's Black Hole Institute and director of the Institute for Theory and Computation, and on and on and on. Okay. Now, has Harvard pushed back against Dr. Loeb? Has Harvard scheduled a tribune? Have there been hit pieces in Time magazine? No. He has got the media at his feet. He is reigning a man. He's having a ball. Okay, and it's a safe play because Oumuamua, he left the solar system some time ago. It's gone, baby. All right, and it's never coming back. And so he's taken a possible explanation and driven it home. Why? Because Dr. Loeb is no fool. The idea that he has held these positions for these many years at the center of the astronomy community and hasn't figured out or been tipped off as an extraterrestrial presence, I give that a 1 in 10 billion. He absolutely knows an extraterrestrial, but he can't go there. He can't go that far, but he's gone this far. And he's advanced the issue. He has brought huge amounts of people into the subject, the concept of we are alone, very important. He's getting press. He's exciting people, all good. But here's the point that I'm trying to make here. 25 years ago, we saw what happened to Mack, and now we see what's happened to Avi Loeb. This is not 1994. We are in a totally different place. The New York Times is on board. Harvard is on board. The Navy's on board. The Congress is coming on board. The Senate Intelligence Committee, right? More books are coming out. And one of those books, one of the things that triggered my little thinking on this, was the book I just also downloaded that came out a week ago called The Believer.
Ralph Blumenthal. Yes.
Of John Mack by who?
Ralph Blumenthal.
Blumenthal. Why is that significant? Ralph Blumenthal was on the 2 articles in the New York Times in 2017. 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner. All right. Now, you may not know this, but when I was doing all that press, forcing all that press out there about Clinton and the ET connection during the campaign that generated all those articles, I was talking to lots of reporters as a source, going to them, regular updates, and they're all fine, great, writing this. And during that period, I approached not only Wayne Broad, who's a Pulitzer Prize winner of the science, but I wasn't able to get to him, but I was able to talk with Ralph. And I was trying to encourage him to say, look, get in, write some stuff about this. This is a major story. And he demurred because he wasn't working for the Times anymore. He retired. He was doing his own thing. He was independent. And he told me, look, I'm working on a book about your subject. And so I can't go there. I got to work on this. But please don't tell anybody. And I didn't. I never said anything about it. Later, a 2-time Pulitzer Prize winning is putting out a biography of Mack, and I know damn well this is a really great and positive biography. John Mack was one of the most important people of the 20th century. And very soon, his Wikipedia page is going to be a hell of a lot bigger than it is right now, and it's not very big. That's going to change. And John Mack's legacy is going to get put into play big time at exactly the right time. Why is he publishing that book now in March? Why did the Mars Perseverance land in February? Why is the New York Times holding off before the major articles? Because we have a new president Hearings on the table. Disclosure is in the works, and all of this they want this on stage now, and it's all coming together. And
I have two comments, and
yes.
and the first is this: when it came to Ralph, and I did the same thing. I reached out to Ralph last year and said, "I'd love to get you on the show." And he said, I'm in the middle of writing this book. You're going to love it. After the book comes out, let's do this, right? Okay. Got the same, by the way, same thing with Avi Loeb over the last few years, too, as well. Trying to get him on the show. And he's like, I'm writing this book when it's done. But anyway, with Ralph, after December of 2017 and everything else, and you're right, he went independent. Of all of the subjects that he could have written about with this new book, and it doesn't matter, it's Ralph Blumenthal, it's going to be a New York Times bestseller, it's John Mack. And you have to step back and ask yourself, why?
Let me answer you. The John Mack project was well in the works before 2017.
You think so?
He didn't just start.
That's possible.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, when I talked to him in mid-2016. He was working on the book. This is a major book. He's probably been working on that book for 5-6 years.
Sure. Okay.
And he had to get permissions from the family. He's doing hard research. The damn thing is huge. And so no, he was working on it, and that's his book. But I'm telling you, he picked a wonderful topic.
And the timing. Why John Mack now? With Ralph Blumenthal.
Because look. Well, first of all,
no, I agree with everything that you just said.
No one had done a biography of Mack that I'm aware of, and if they did, it had nothing to do with his ET work. So this is the first biography of Mack, of John Mack, who was a very important figure in the 20th century, with huge implications for the ET issue, and provided all the gravitas. Went through hell, and now Disclosure is coming. It's a perfect book. Right, and he can do it. I mean, so he's through this book, he's going to reignite Mack's work. He's going to confirm it. He's going to obviously boost the situation on contactees, who obviously still are going to be in the closet. They're not going to be able to do their thing in grand scale until after Disclosure, but nevertheless, a major contribution. Now, he may write some New York Times articles, but he can do anything he wants. I'm sure he's going to be a significant player in this field, pre-disclosure, post-disclosure. He has established himself now through not only those articles, but this, and so his connection to this issue throughout his career was basically nothing there. I mean, it's nothing public. He probably wasn't involved at all. But he's a smart guy. He's an editor of New York Times. He knows stuff going on. He had a chance late in life to engage this issue in a meaningful way and become part of it, and he took it. And that's fantastic.
He certainly took it, and it takes me back to 30 minutes ago when we came back after the break, and I want the community to understand what I am suggesting here. We're talking about Harvard and everything that is connected to the name Harvard when you hear it. It is as prestigious and as credible as anything that you can bring up in a conversation. And with Harvard right now, we've got Avi Loeb and his new book, Extraterrestrial, and we've got Ralph Blumenthal and John Mack, two Harvard professors with pedigree beyond measure, at the same time with everything else that is going on around the world with the UFO issue. I don't think it's a coincidence, Stephen, not at all.
The authors of these books are very smart people. Harvard, by the way, one of the reasons he's not getting any pushback from Harvard, of course, I'm sure the book is impeccable. It's mostly science.
Oh, he's getting pushback. No, he's, Stephen, let me jump in. You should go and listen to my interview with Avi Loeb. I did it last week. It's 2 hours. Okay. This isn't a 5-minute Avi Loeb conversation. It's a full 2 hours. And I engage with him. It's a great conversation, by the way. I highly recommend it. But I engage with him a few times about what everybody else is seeing in the world, what I have seen, what millions of people have witnessed, the history of what's going on. And he said, look, I don't discount, this is Avi, so I don't discount any of that, but my book is about the data. It's not whether I believe that this is a UFO or this is ET. It's not about that. The data is red, and the data suggests something else. That's what the book is based on. And I'm going to stand behind the data and the way that I interpret it. And that's Avi's position, and it's strong. It is strong.
No, that's exactly what he would do. He can't come out and say, look, I have this theory about Oumuamua, but hey, I've been pretty much aware there's extraterrestrials here for years, and pull a Bigelow. No. That's a problem. Harvard is going to have a problem with that. All right. So he is, and it's the same thing with Marco Rubio. He made a move that was safe, but got him involved. He's making a move that gets him involved, but it's a safe play. He's not going to give you any further personal views he has on it, but it's also safe for Harvard. And I could see why Harvard is certainly not going to push back at him, because he's doing them a huge favor. Because believe me, if only because I fully intend to, Harvard is going to answer for what it did to John Mack. Harvard is the epitome of our university system. But by the way, the entire university college system of America, which is 5,000 colleges and universities, that of which a couple of millions of professors have passed through since 1940s, has completely, with only the tiniest bits of exception, ignored and not engaged the ET issue as if it didn't exist. This is the intellectual power and might of America. Took a complete pass on it. And Harvard is the symbol of that monumental institutional or intellectual failure. All right. And so, they're going to take heat. This takes a little heat off of them. In other words, hey, they're not giving him a hard time. And maybe they have something else up their sleeves. Okay, but you can be damn sure that I'm going to make sure that Harvard has to deal with this. It won't be that hard, actually, because I'll have a pretty good platform post-disclosure, I believe, and they're going to answer for it and apologize to the family, for God's sakes. Because but the truth, but they were also a victim of the truth embargo. If there wasn't a truth embargo that had already been in place since 47 to 94, what's that? 47 years. There would have been no Phil Klass capable of pulling a con job like on that, trying to take him down.
Right.
Phil Klass would have existed. Right. So the truth embargo opened the doors for Klass and other people like him to screw around with this issue as well from the citizen side. Whether they were hired by the government or not didn't matter. The door was open for all of that. Just in all kinds of prejudices and bigotry. The government opens the door and makes it possible for people that want to be bigoted to come in and do their thing.
Right. And if you go back, and I'm so glad that you brought up 1995 and 1996, because back then there was no other planets outside of our solar system. That was 1995.
No other discovery.
That's right. Right, and we wondered, we thought about it, we postulated, but there weren't any. 1995, the first. 1996, a second. In the next 3-4 years, there were 5. Only 5, Stephen. Today, what does Avi Loeb have behind him and the rest of astronomy and physics and astrophysics is that there are 20 to 40 billion Earth-like planets just in our Milky Way. So now, if you are a researcher, you're an astronomer, you're a physicist, you can now dip your toe into this in a safer way than you ever could in the past. And that is what's going on today with science. It's the numbers and the data are forcing them to not avoid the issue. You can no longer say, well, there's only one planet out there. I mean, how much life can there be? Well, now we know that the number is 40 billion. 40 billion Earth-like. Right? Just in the Milky Way, not in the universe.
No, I agree with you, but let me put it this way. Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, even Avi Loeb, they're putting their foot in the water, though Dyson is probably sitting on the side of the pool with it. Whatever. They're running out of time. In other words, they need to get more in the water than that. Okay. The longer they don't jump in, they wait to jump into the pool. Now Bigelow has jumped in the pool. That's an example of jumping in the pool. Okay. The harder it is going to be on them because they're very, very smart. And the question is, how did you miss it? How did you miss it right up to what, 2021? And now there's ETs here. It's tough, but I get it. They all have their careers and lives and the constraints. And same with the TTS boys who are not capable to come out and say there's ETs here matter of factly. Only Bigelow could do that because they're under constraints too. No problem. As long as we get disclosure, I'm good with that. That's okay. All right. But the data, look, I was going to become an astrophysicist. That was my game plan. But I had a lot of problems in college. It was the Vietnam War was going on. And I think at some point I realized even if I managed to get through this, I would be a mediocre astrophysicist.
I've seen the pictures. You're a bona fide hippie. So let's just
Yeah, right. So I went and became a mediocre tennis player. But all right. But my heart has always been in science, and I do have a lot of science books, and I'm relatively literate. And so look, when I've said many times over the years that the truth embargo's death was inevitable and that disclosure was inevitable. And I know that for many scientists, whatever they believe personally about the ET issue, and I know there are thousands of them that know full well there's an ET presence. When the Kepler satellite went up, and then the other second satellite went up, and they started doing the survey of the galaxy.
TESS.
Yeah. And they started getting the results back. I think most of them realized, that's kind of the ball game. And then as the numbers mounted, it was in the late 1990s, believe it or not, there was a scientist whose name has now disappeared into history that wrote a book that got a lot of initial attention called Rare Earth, where he made the case that Earth was probably an extreme anomaly. All right. Haven't heard from him lately. So as those numbers mounted up, the pressure now on the government and the truth embargo is getting heavier and heavier and heavier. It's becoming increasingly ludicrous, which is why I think even starting as early as 2000, they weren't actively running the truth embargo. In other words, they weren't putting energy into it. They had a lot of momentum going there from some 50-some years, and they just kind of let it go on its own momentum. But they weren't servicing it, which opened the door for us to make progress, knowing that eventually it's going to slow down and music's going to stop. And the question is, who is going to be in the chairs and who's going to be standing, up on the dance floor looking foolish? Well, we're almost there. And the planet surveys were very powerful. I mean, very powerful. Now, there's something else that I've said recently. I put a post up and I'm going to double down on it. I'm making a call here. Within the next 45 days, do not be surprised if we suddenly get an announcement either from NASA or China or India, all of which have orbiters around Mars. Two of them have one, and also one has an orbiter on the dark side of the moon. And of course, we've got Perseverance, that we get confirmation of life, either fossil or actually living now life. And it could be all it has to be is a sculpture in the side of a rock. But if you look at the timing of everything, and if you're NASA, which is going to have a huge list of really bitch questions that they're going to have to answer. I mean, NASA is going to have a rough time. Okay. It would be really nice if you could be the first entity to confirm life outside the planet, and maybe even former intelligent life outside the planet, and have that come down, say, I don't know, March, April of 2021. I got a feeling that's coming. Got a real good feeling about that.
I want to go back to Bud Hopkins and John Mack for a second. One of the things, and I never met either of them, okay? But I've studied, read, watched everything that I can on those two guys. But one of the things that they were very steadfast about was BS. They were about data, credibility, moving this issue forward that has its issues with the public. And they just didn't want people bringing stuff in and muddying the waters that couldn't be confirmed. And which for me was bizarre because of the subject matter that they were dealing with, which is probably the craziest of all, which is abductions and experiencers, right? And it's like the two. But today, with disclosure, the one part about all of this is the millions of people around the world that have talked about this, spoken about this. They know their personal issues with it that need to be patted on the back. Now, either they are all crazy, or this is something that has been going on for a very long time with a large amount of people. It's not just Travis Walton. We're talking about a huge number of people, aren't we?
Contact has been confirmed. The 500,000 to 1 million reports that have accumulated since the 1980s in the files of the researchers, which have been reviewed but never compiled, which was a huge multi-million-dollar project. These people didn't send in 500,000 to 1 million accounts privately to researchers of their experience with the ET issue because they wanted fame and glory. They got none of that, nor any money.
Exactly.
They wanted to tell their story. And then there's the research. It's not even, believe me, it's 100% guaranteed certainty. Is it messier? Yeah, it's not physics. Okay, I get that. And by the way, look, it's human nature that if you're pursuing something and you're passionate about it, that you hate the idea of anybody doing anything that's going to harm the important work that you're doing. But the world doesn't work that way, and history doesn't work that way. Even in science, you can be involved in some major science project, and there's guys out working on parallel, similar theories. They're doing all kinds of stuff, and they have these wars where they fire papers back at each other. So you just don't get it that way. But I can tell on a personal level, Bud Hopkins got very angry with me in the last months, a year of his life. And he told me so to my face. He thought I was just bringing all kinds of crap into this, and it was messing things up. I don't agree, of course, but I understand. Now, Mack wouldn't have thought that way. Mack was a very different kind of guy. He understood that the kind of work you do in psychology is not physics. But he did get a couple of papers published, right? And he was proud of that. He added to the body of evidence, but given the field that he was in, you could only go so far. I mean, my God, they still can't. They're not sure what the hell causes schizophrenia. But being in that kind of work, which is why it took so much courage, a lot more courage than Avi Loeb had to expand in order to take an interesting theory about Oumuamua. He knew he was totally vulnerable. They could have savaged him in that panel, right? You're talking to these people. They're not really contactees. What about that woman that faked it? You didn't get that right. You're screwing up. They got PTSD. You're a menace to society, and we're taking your tenure. He knew that was a risk, but he was so good, and he had a track record of extraordinary work in the anti-war movement, in the anti-nuclear movement. I mean, he did tremendous stuff, and so they couldn't do that to him. And Danny Sheehan made sure they couldn't do that to him. But it shows you how much courage it took for John to go there, but he went there. And that's one of the reasons why I'd read a number of books that were impressive that didn't hit me like his book did. His book sent a message to me that this thing is matured. It's happening. You want to do something with your life, Steve? Get on this train. And at the end of the book, I think the last page, there was an address and a phone number for his organization. And so I called him up, and the rest is history.
I don't think we will ever know, but I think this is true. John Mack is no longer with us. But John did a session, and then he did another one, and there was something that was revealed in those two sessions that only he knew that freaked him out. two similarities, two things, and I don't know what that was. And he certainly never revealed it, but there was something.
How do you know that? Was it in a book
there has to be something that takes a guy like John Mack down that road with reckless abandon. There was something, man. There was something. I don't know what it. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I can tell you. I can tell you the story. Some of the story. As the phenomena was developing naturally, being who he was, he was being approached by people. Should you look into this? You might want to look into this, John. So he was rejecting it. He said, "Look, I don't see the path there. I don't see a path there." But finally, he was approached by so many that he decided, "Okay, let me check this out a little bit." Now, there were some books out there you could read, and maybe he did. But he got in touch with Bud Hopkins and said, "I'd like to come down to New York and talk to you about this. I'm considering it." And so he goes down to see Bud at his studio. I was actually in that studio once myself. Pretty cool. Bud was an artist. He was basically an artist.
Right.
Very talented man. I hope to see him fully vindicated and elevated in the post-disclosure period. So he goes down there and they're talking about it, and now he's trying to get a handle on what's going on. And Bud mentions, John, I've had countless letters sent to me from people that have had these experiences because I wrote the book. I forget the name of the book he wrote. Witness, whatever. Anyway, it's a book about the abduction in New York, and I can't even open them all. And so a bunch of them are in the closet. There's a big pile of them in the closet. Why don't you go to the closet, grab 3 or 4 of them, just open them and read them, see what you get. Potluck. So he goes over, he grabs these letters, sits down, he's reading these things, and it really hit him. Random letters out of a big pile. And he's reading these stories, and you've heard some of them, and so have I, of people very powerfully trying to convey, this is what happened to me. I'm telling you, I haven't told anybody else ever, okay? And that helped to convince him. And then I think Thomas Kuhn had an impact on him as well. This is not something he just jumped in casually. He worked his way to it and decided, like I did, but obviously from a higher platform, that you simply can't walk away from something of this magnitude if you are an intellectual and a researcher and a socially conscious person. He founded this organization called the Center for Psychology and Social Change. He involved in dealing with refugee kids and everything else. The guy was a massive progressive. Okay, and so you finally get a sense that very likely this is real. A truly honest, actualized intellectual is not going to walk away from that. Plenty have. And that says where they are, who they were, but not Mack. Right now, Bud Hopkins obviously jumped in. A lot of people jumped in. So are they as courageous? Of course they were courageous. But few had as much to lose as John Mack had. But in a way, does that matter? I mean, what the matter is you either engage it or you don't. If you have a lot to lose, fine. The point is that he did it. And he helped bring this issue to where it is, and all of us will benefit from it. He is one of the most important men. By the way, I'm actually trying to read his Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Prince of Our Disorder, right now about T.E. Lawrence. And I thought, man, I'm not going to be able to get through this because it's really dense. But I'm already seeing stuff in it that just speaks to me about our issues today, even though it's about T.H. Lawrence and World War I and the Arabs, the whole thing, you know what I'm talking about. But that's the book that got him the Pulitzer Prize. He only wrote a couple of books.
Yeah, and I'm steadfast in this. I think John connected the dots with a couple of pieces of evidence, a fact, a statement between a couple of different sessions, and that was it. He was off to the races. Something that only he knew, but he realized that there was no way that these two separate cases could have said this, because look, then he's off to Africa, Zimbabwe, the Ariel school. That
was
UFO,
part of his research.
That was, he's off, man. He went in. Oh, yeah. John was full in.
Once he started working with actual contactees in his office there in Cambridge, obviously now he's getting the firsthand stories, just like other researchers like Yvonne Smith and the others we know about have gotten. But he's getting it from the perspective of a highly trained psychiatrist, right? skilled in hypnotism and everything else. And so obviously it's just reinforcing and reinforcing. This looks very real. But he was doing legitimate research. Many of the staff there were contactees. That shouldn't surprise anybody. And so eventually he publishes what is best he could, a proper paper in which he discusses his findings in a way that's appropriate and was able to get it in the journal. Not easy to do, right? Because they weren't exactly opening anything like that in open arms. But that was a milestone. I forget the name of it. It can easily be found. He didn't get a lot published because, again, it was brutal. He was basically still ahead of his time in 1992, 3, 4. He was early, but fortunately not too early. So he did as a scientist. He went to Rouen and helped make that a major case. The documentary on that will come soon. If they're smart, they'll get it out in the next 45 days. It's been long coming. Major story. There have been others like it. So his legacy on this issue is solid. It will hold up well to history. He will be well rewarded, I believe, by the future and so forth. And I just, I wish he were still here. When he died, he was 74, only 2 months from my age right now. We were in the calendar just 2 years ago. So I'm basically the age that he died.
Well, you look great. Oh, by the way, let me thank you for an extraordinary conversation. And thank you for everything tonight. But before I get out of here, had Lee Spiegel on the show last night, and he said, be sure to tell the man in black I said hello. So I got that out of the way. But you're doing a podcast now, and tell us about that really quick. Where can everybody go and check it out? And how often do you put out new episodes?
Took a year to get the introductory video up, 14 minutes. It's disclosurewire.org. That's where you find it. I still haven't gotten the second one up. I'm slow. I'm trying to, I want to do it perfectly, but eventually this podcast will get rolling. I'm mostly interviewing other podcasts. I've booked 62 interviews so far this calendar year. I've got 15 to go of the bookings. At least half to 2/3 of those are podcasts. I'm doing other people's podcasts, making podcast friends. But eventually you're going to see some things coming up, but I want them to be important. I just don't want to do anything. I'm not under a schedule, but I hope to do some important interviews of people that have already been interviewed by other people, but I hope to take a different tact, use a different approach, whatever, but it's coming. That's part of my contribution. But also I'm talking with people about some other projects. I've got people approaching me at some major projects saying, will you give me some advice, or will you speak or that? And I don't want to go into those right now, but that's on a list of these things I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. People are really jumping in with money and with their time. The barrier is down. It's safe. It's okay. So go for it, right? Get your bib on and do your best Rosie Ruiz. And so there's plenty and there's plenty of podcasts out there. So people are going to suffer if I don't get a bunch up, but you will see some more from me. I may even write an article for Medium and whatever the hell else I can do. But I'm starting to get cranked up. I'm starting to get energized because of all these interviews I'm giving, like this one. I just started those toward the end of last year. Let me tell you, by about October of last year, I was a wreck. I was not in good shape, my friend. I was lying in bed in the morning, staring at the ceiling, going, I am a worthless piece of shit. Right? And I've wasted my life, and I could barely get going. Now I'm getting my mojo back. So I feel good.
Well,
and you helped me do.
Well, thank you for that, Stephen. I really appreciate that. And rumor has it that you did audition for Baywatch, but you didn't get the role. And I'm just letting you know that story is now out.
Close.
You were so close.
So close. Look, I went to California in 1972. And I was playing lots of tennis. It never occurred to me to go up to Hollywood and see what I could do. Maybe, do a couple of jobs, maybe get an agent. I did not have a high opinion of myself then. Okay. I didn't have the confidence that eventually developed before I got in this field in 96. And so it never occurred to me, man, are you out of your mind? And so I hung out in San Diego. But looking back at some of those photos, I'm going, Jesus, man.
You could have been a contender.
I could have been a contender.
Stephen Bassett, thank you so much, my friend. And be safe out there and enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much.
I will. Good night, sir.
Steven Bassett. We just went poll to poll. I am off of the network in 30 seconds. I'm getting straight to the credits. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Camarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster, Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Until then, be safe. Fade to Black.